If you're a golfer who struggles to get a nice big shoulder turn, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in this video. And funnily enough, it's without thinking of the shoulders one bit. So I'm Jonathan Chan with JChownGolf. Let's get right into this and how we can get that big shoulder turn to increase our power. So as we all know with shoulder turn, the more we turn our shoulders at the top of the backswing, the more speed we're going to be able to generate in the downswing. So ultimately, we're going to hit the golf ball further. So just general, if we're loading up our backswing more, so think of the golf swing like a spring, if we're getting up to the top where we're loading that spring, it's going to fire through the golf ball faster. So we definitely need to get more shoulder turn in the golf swing. But here's the thing, we need to get more shoulder turn by not thinking of turning our shoulders. And you've got to think, how does that make sense? Because if you look here, now for context, I'm in my mid-20s, I should be able to get a decent amount of shoulder turn, but I'm not very flexible. So if I'm getting up to the top of my swing here, and I'm just trying to do it by not doing much with my lower body, but just purely trying to turn my shoulders, I can only get to about here, where I almost feel my upper back cramping, or just doing that. Now, you can't see any of my upper back at all. You can probably just see my shoulder here. So me just trying to think of turning my shoulders don't get me anywhere near to a spot that I need to be able to get a full turn. So what we need to do, and we need to cast our minds back to someone around Nicklaus's era, let's say Jack Nicklaus, for example. So Jack Nicklaus, if you look at him turning, he gets a big shoulder turn, doesn't he? Gets quite a big shoulder turn. But he's not doing that by just trying to turn his shoulders, not at all. Look at his lower body movement. If you cast your mind back to that, let's emulate him. His lower body movement, he'll be doing this as he's turning back. Look at this. So I'm at the top of my backswing here. One, you can see a little bit of my upper back, hopefully. Two, you can see how my left knee is pointing behind the golf ball. And three, you're going to see how my left heel is just lifted up off the ground. Now, if I turn my hips, because this is all this is doing, those moves, getting that left knee behind the golf ball, getting that left heel to lift, that is getting my hips to turn more. If I turn my hips, let me just think of hip turn. I'm just going to turn my hips. I've naturally just turned my shoulders as a byproduct of it. We don't need to think of shoulder turn to get more shoulder turn. We need to think of more hip turn. The more we're turning our hips, the more we're going to be able to get more shoulder turn, so more speed. So for a lot of you guys who struggle with your mobility, stop thinking of your shoulder turn because you're not Dustin Johnson. You're not going to be able to get up there whilst bracing the lower body and doing that. So you'll need to really feel that lower body turning up. Now, just like anything in the golf swing, we need to work on a drill to be able to fix the problem. We need to work on a drill here that will give us more hip turn. So when we're on the range, we're making good use of our time. So what we're going to do, I've got an alignment stick here. Now what I'm going to do with the alignment stick, I'm going to put it in my belt loops. So just going to put it here, so where there's a lot coming out my left hand side, a tiny bit coming down my right here. So really, if I now just try to turn my shoulders without doing anything with my lower body, you can see that stick barely moved, didn't it? Barely moved. I don't want that to happen. I want this stick to end up rotating to where it's turning and getting closer to the golf ball. About halfway to the golf ball is where I want this. You can see this is a good one here. I'm going to turn up with my shoulders. Now look what happens. I'm going to stay in the same position, and now I'm going to get this stick pointing halfway to the golf ball. Look how much more shoulder turn I've got. I didn't try to do anything with my shoulders. It's again to prove how good this is. So just try to swing up here, guys, getting it going halfway to that golf ball there. For someone like myself, poor mobility, my left heel naturally lifts up, my left knee naturally goes in there. That's going to gain you a lot of power. So we need to hit golf balls doing this. So nice, slow and steady to start off with. Again, when we get that big turn, we don't need to swing the head out of it. We don't need to hit the ball really hard. We just need to get a nice full turn and swing that golf club through. We will pick up the speed going down the downswing when we get that more turn. Don't need to worry about it. It will give you the power. So I want to get this stick halfway to the golf ball. And it really makes you feel like you really whip through there quite nicely. And a lot of you guys out there who struggle with, let's say, losing balls out to the right for occasion, so a slice shot. We see when people are trying to really just get a shoulder turn and they're not doing much with their lower body, their hands don't naturally get behind them enough. Now, when your hands get more behind you, so what we call depth of your top of your backswing is just how deep your hands are, so how behind them you are, that's really going to dictate your path quite a bit. When I don't turn my lower body and I just try and turn my shoulders, my hands go vertically straight up. They almost get picked up. So when now I rotate the downswing, the hands are going to get way too far out in front of me and I'm going to chop across the golf ball. But when I rotate my hips in the backswing, my hands naturally go around me. So they're naturally going to go more in and around now. I didn't try to do that. They just moved in with that hip turn. And you can see my hands a little bit deeper behind me. I wouldn't say they're flat. It's not flat. They're deep. So now if I turn the downswing, It's going to get on path nicely. So it's going to help me hit the ball straighter. You guys could, as soon as you do this, start hitting draw shots. This is really how important this little move is. Who doesn't want to hit long draws? I mean, come on. So what we're going to do here, let's hit a couple more balls, really getting this feel in there. This is going to give us that bigger shoulder turn. So that's exactly how we can practice it. Alignment stick in the belt loops, really getting that stick so it's pointing halfway to the golf ball. But how do we do this on the golf course? Yep, of course, there's a thought we can do quite nicely. So really here, let's say there's no net here. This is my target. I'm hitting towards the green. So I'm going to set up to this golf ball, and when I get up to the top of my backswing, I want the back belt loops here, so we know on our trousers we've got belt loops. The very back one, I want pointing just left of the target here. So if, let's say I'm aiming here, I want it pointing over here with my back belt loop. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to point that to that one, and you can see how much more hip turn I've got. Just thinking of back belt loop pointing a little bit left of the target. If you're just trying to turn with your shoulders, where's my back belt loop on my trousers? They're pointing behind me, not left of the target. So if we do that and don't restrict any movement, that left heel is going to come up nicely, that left knee is going to come up nicely. Let's think back belt loop just to the left of the target, and then we're going to turn through the golf ball. So there's a nice thought you can take out onto the golf course, really quite nice and simple. It'll free up your swing a lot, make it a lot more like a golf swing, less like you're trying to smack the living daylights at the golf ball. So really from there, very funny, isn't it, how to get more shoulder turn, you don't want to think of turning your shoulders, you think of turning your hips more. This will really help you straighten out, and it will help you add more power. Of course it will, for getting that more turn. So guys, if you found this video helpful, click that like button, helps my channel out a ton. And obviously if you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So simple stuff guys, if you want to turn more, turn your hips, not your shoulders.